It's been over a year since Mahsa Amini died while in custody of Iran's morality police, sparking worldwide outrage against the Iranian government. This led to a brutal crackdown in Iran, with hundreds of protesters killed during the demonstrations, thousands arrested, and dozens sentenced to death, with many of those executions having already been carried out. It's clear to everyone that demonstrators inside the country take a huge risk, but most people feel safe protesting in Western democracies in support of those marching in Iran and against the Iranian government.
Unfortunately, Iran has been turning its attention abroad, using a variety of means, digital and otherwise, to silence its critics internationally.
While the Islamic Republic has been physically silencing dissidents since the 1979 revolution, and the Iranian monarchy engaged in its own fair share of dictatorial means in its time, the modern era of suppressing criticism started in 2009, when the government announced incumbent President Ahmadinejad had won re-election despite allegations of voter fraud and irregularities, kicking off a wave of demonstrations with over 100,000 mostly young Iranians taking to the streets to protest the announcement. Ida Rayhani, a journalist and a good friend of mine who did most of the heavy lifting in reporting this story, was there back then.
In 2009, my sister and I were in Tehran for my grandma's funeral. I remember so clearly, we were walking past Tehran University and the riot police, they were lining the walls, and I told myself, oh my God, they look huge. There were tensions, and then they started rushing the crowds and they started beating everyone, men, women, everyone. My sister and I got beaten up too. The protests which followed the Green Revolution are also known as the Persian Spring. You can see them as a kind of a predecessor to the Arab Spring, not only because it was a youth-led pro-democracy movement, but also because it made heavy use of social media, in particular Twitter, as a way of signal boosting the movement with the hashtag Iran protests. In response, opposition leaders were placed under house arrest. A violent crackdown, so as many as 4,000 people arrested and hundreds allegedly tortured and killed. While Tehran says 36 people died during the protest, unofficial reports place the numbers much higher. 200 people in Tehran and 173 people in other cities in Iran. In the years that followed, growing economic grievances, worsened by international sanctions, saw anti-government protesters take to the streets again and again. And each time, they were met by a similar response. Internet shutdowns to disorganize dissent, violent crackdowns, arrests, imprisonments, and death. This brings us to September of 2022. A young woman of Kurdish descent was visiting Tehran with her family when she was approached by Iran's notorious guidance patrol, also known as the morality police. They reprimanded her for her outfit, beat her, and threw her into the back of a police van to take her to what they call morality rehabilitation. The government later released a video showing her passing out while in custody. After falling into a coma, she died on September 16th. You may have heard of her by her official Persian name, Mahsa Amini, but her friends and family knew her by her Kurdish name, Jina. The outpour of anger was immediate. This attack on women, historically robbed of their rights, opened the floodgates. The Kurdish community, also historically marginalized and brutalized by the Islamic Republic, reacted with the rallying calls of Jin, Jian, Azadi. Woman, life, freedom. This rallying call is not only heard in Iran, but to the surprise of many across the world. Expat communities, some exiled and some in self-exile, took to the streets to show their support for Iranians inside Iran. In Berlin alone, it is estimated as many as 80,000 people gathered to show their solidarity for the Iranian rights movement.
The regime's core response to the widespread protests has more or less remained the same over the years. The regime would respond with violent crackdowns, arrests, torture, suspicious deaths, and later execution of protesters for vague charges like enmity against God and corruption on earth. It's one thing for authoritarian governments to crack down on dissent in their own countries, but of course their reach doesn't stop at their border. For instance, in 2020, Rwanda kidnapped and imprisoned Paul Rusesabagina, famous for being the inspiration for the film Hotel Rwanda. In 2021, Belarus forced a plane not destined for Minsk to land so they could kidnap and imprison one of its passengers, political activist Roman Protasevich. And Canada just accused India of assassinating Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. These are just a few examples, but plenty of countries do the same, from Russia attempting or carrying out multiple assassinations in Europe in recent years, to Saudi Arabia having journalist Jamal Khashoggi murdered at their embassy in Turkey, to China trying to silence the Uyghur diaspora internationally. And of course, Iran. According to human rights nonprofit Freedom House, since 2014, the country has been linked to 5 assassinations or assassination attempts in 3 countries, and plots were thwarted in at least 2 others. This is called transnational repression, which Freedom House defines as governments reaching across borders to silence dissent among diasporas and exiles, including through assassinations, illegal deportations, abductions, digital threats, Interpol abuse, and family intimidation. In one particular case, US authorities say Iran hired private investigators to gather information on Iranian-American journalist Mahsa Jina and even attempt to kidnap her. In December of 2022, Paris-based Iranian activist Mahsa Kamari received a message asking her to call her mother's phone in Iran. When she called, a man picked up and threatened to imprison her parents if she didn't stop her activism. Here's a recording of the phone call she shared with the media.
ببینید شما هر اقدام اونجا علیه جمهوری اسلامی انجام بدهید جرم است و خانواده شما باید اینجا پاسخ
نه خیر، هیچ جای دنیا جناب هیچ جای دنیا بابت جرم یه نفر خانواده‌شو هیچ جای دنیا بخواد.
This has always been happening.
This is Dr. Sandro Geiken.
Sandro's fine.
Okay, then this is Sandro, a military intelligence expert.
I used to be a director at NATO, advise a number of governments. I was a diplomat in the German Foreign Office and designed the German cyber foreign policy strategy.
Now he's a researcher and entrepreneur in cybersecurity and cyber defense.
Authoritarian states are always afraid of their image abroad, and of course they are paranoid about dissidents, and they're paranoid about conspiracies, as they call it, in the West, by dissidents, by a diaspora, by people who are not happy with their regimes.
Amid the international wave of protests since the killing of Mahsa Amini, The Guardian describes Iran's recent efforts as a Europe-wide campaign of harassment, surveillance, kidnap plots, and death threats targeting political activists protesting against the regime. We spoke with Iranian activists here in Germany about their own experience with transnational repression.
I came home 2 days after the demonstration and I saw the lights of my house was on from outside, and I was very sure the lights were off when I left the house because I always turn them off firstly. And it was middle of the day when I left the house. So I went in the house with a dog of a neighbor so that if anything happens, there is someone who barks. You know? It was very clear for me that, okay, someone was here because the door was unlocked completely. And then I went to my room and I saw, okay, my laptop, my PC was turned on, logged in, which later on I found out it's not so hard to do it. It takes 4 minutes to do it. So you don't need to be a sophisticated hacker to perform such a thing. You just need to be prepared for it. They wanted to make me afraid and show me that they can do things. What they did was that the Telegram group, or the Telegram of my PC was turned on, and it was on the group chat of our collective. Of course, now all those information of those people were compromised.
This is a perfect illustration of how digital technology is a double-edged sword in modern activism, as pointed out by digital surveillance and transnational repression researcher Marcus Mikkelsen. They allow diaspora activists to mobilize for and participate in political struggles in their country of origin, he says. But authoritarian regimes use the same technologies to threaten and intimidate dissidents in exile.
The cyber attacks I'm getting most is the cyber army on Twitter, mostly with defamation and bullying. I got my first cyber attack actually before the killing of Jina, but that time the cyber attacks were more in Farsi language. There was no real cyber army in German language, but what we're seeing since the beginning of 2023 that the cyber army also has cyber accounts using the German language. And this I take as a sign that the regime in Iran is actually acknowledging what we're doing here What I experienced, I think it was 2 weeks ago, is that my Facebook account got hacked. I got a message that's, did you log into this account right now from Frankfurt? And I was like, no, I did not. Whoever that was actually got into my account, changed my password, even changed my email address. And I don't know how they did it because I have two-factor authentication. They shouldn't be able to come in without having access to my phone number and the SMS I'm getting.
I'll be honest with you, that kind of freaked me out because the exact same thing happened to me just 2 days before we shot that interview. And I didn't think anything of it at the time because I'd been dealing with the occasional attempted hack of my social media for months at this point. But it got noticeably worse as soon as we started researching this story and reaching out to activists. Ida, how do you feel about, how paranoid are you feeling about making this video?
Oh, Jesus. It wasn't that bad when I started. I actually felt really good. I felt like I'm doing amazing research. I'm learning a lot. But the more I learn, I think the more frightened I'm becoming, actually. It was the other day and I was actually looking into things and researching, and I had so many tabs open also on the computer. I had reports of Mandiant, which does cybersecurity reports. I was also looking into UN reports, also looking into activists. And then suddenly, out of the blue, like a window pops up on my laptop, and it is asking me, a very weird application is asking me, put in your MacBook password in order to continue. I am actually researching spearphishing, and this is like textbook. I just had a heart attack. I was like, this is crazy, it's happening to me. So what I did, I just held down the power button for everything to just shut down.
I don't think anyone feels safe. I mean, do you just go to a Russian or Ukrainian activist in Germany and ask, do you feel safe? They would say no, and Iran is the same situation. Like, go to an Afghan person, they would say the same shit. Of course, the resources of a government like Russia is much bigger than Islamic Republic or Taliban, but they are still there. And the time has changed. We are targeted more and more on digital level, on the cyberspace.
I have no reason to think myself or Ida have actually been targeted. I would be really surprised if we got on the IRGC's radar just by doing this research. But that's the thing. The whole point of these, I guess, state-sponsored intimidation campaigns is not just that it'll scare the people who were actually targeted. It's that it creates a chilling effect where everyone else is wondering, was this attempted hack from them? Or if they have a scary encounter outside their house, they start to wonder if it was deliberate. And maybe it makes some activists or journalists think twice about whether they want to continue to do what they're doing.
If I think about it too much and I just sit still and do nothing, nothing happens, nothing changes. And I just don't want fear to stop me, and I want to do it. And I should be able to say what I want to say without any fears of repercussion for me, actually. But at the same time, it gives you just an idea how difficult maybe it is to be an activist or vocal journalist who they constantly out there, they're risking their lives, they're putting their faces and voices out there.
In general, I can only say that the only times that I feel rather comfortable, rather secure is in our demonstrations.
I wasn't scared about being targeted by the Islamic Republic, even after I became a little famous for my activism. It was until Feb where I was invited to the Landeskriminalamt, and they gave me a security briefing, and they said that they checked if hackers could find anything, my address or phone number or anything on the internet. And then we talked about the Islamic Republic and the danger for activists here. And after talking to the Landeskriminalamt and after seeing how they work and what they know about the Islamic Republic, then I got scared because I realized there's so much they don't know.
In 2023, just a few weeks before the anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death, the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz, or BFV, Germany's domestic intelligence agency, published this report. Advisory on cyber espionage against critics of the Iranian regime in Germany. In it, they warn about a specific hacker group, referred to as Charming Kitten.
Hey, so if you're not new to the channel, you might have noticed that this video is actually a re-release of a video that originally went out in late 2023. And since then, a few cool things happened. We took it down because it was being screened at a few festivals. We actually won the award for Best Short Documentary at the Press Play Prague Film Festival in 2024.
We won!
And we had a screening and a panel discussion with Marcus Michelson, the expert on transnational repression, whose work we actually quoted in the video, as well as an internationally recognized human rights expert and a member of the German Bundestag, former member now. So that was all really cool, but it also got a lot scarier after the publication of the video. In addition to the scary incidents that happened while we were making the video, in the months that followed, my LinkedIn was hacked and briefly belonged to a Chinese woman. My Facebook was also hacked and they posted a photo of Osama bin Laden as my profile picture, which, fun fact, apparently Facebook has a bin Laden detector in their systems because when you post bin Laden as your profile picture, your account gets immediately locked. And it took me a month to get it back. I also had over 100 login attempts on my Microsoft account in the space of 24 hours early last year. And as Daniela said, I don't know, I can't know, I'll probably never know if it had anything to do with the video or if it was just a complete coincidence, but it all happened in the 3 months after the video was published. And yet the video itself got basically no attention online whatsoever. I think we got a total of like 17 euros in YouTube ad revenue and major cybersecurity headaches. So my point is, we put months of work into every video that goes out on this channel, and while the peer recognition from other journalists at the festivals we were screened at was cool, this would not be possible if we were only doing it based off of YouTube revenue. The only reason this channel still exists is because a few of you actually support Barely Informed on Patreon because you feel like this kind of independent journalism is worth the price of a coffee or so every month. So if you already support Barely Informed, thank you so much. If you would like to, please consider it, and if you can't afford to, you can always leave a like and a comment and share it with your friends or post about it on Reddit or something like that, I don't know. There's Patreon, but there's also Coffee, there's YouTube memberships, there's one-time YouTube Super Thanks donations, there's other one-time donation options. The links for all of those are down below. Thank you so much, and now let's get back to what the hell is Charming Kitten.
Yeah, Charming Kitten is one of the older groups that we know. The indicators that we have that they're from Iran actually is that they are mostly interested in Iranian targets. So much of this attribution, as we call it, is done by simply looking at who they're targeting and how they're targeting, what they're interested in. So in this case, it's a very exclusive and specific interest that they exhibit. So that's the main indicator that we get for Iran. We also have some more secret inside knowledge, of course, into the methods of Iran, the technical methods that are being used, and those match with the patterns, the technical patterns that are being used by Charming Kitten. Mostly what they do is phishing and spearphishing. So that's the equivalent of frauds. They're trying to build a trust relation with their victims by pretending to be a friend or pretending to be a superior or pretending to be some entity, like a government entity that's trying to help them.
I know of one person who got an email from someone who claimed to be someone and then forced them to click on the link all the time. There was a journalist of a newspaper, and if you Google that name, that person exists and really works for that newspaper. And now my friend is trying to reach out to the newspaper and seeing if that colleague really wanted to interview him and really wanted to make him click on that link.
I actually thought about this when we contacted our activists for this story. I thought, there is no way they're not going to be suspicious of me. Because if I were indeed targeting them, this is how I would do it. I would send them an email, posing as a journalist working for any media news outlet. I just would need them to say yes to my interview request. Afterwards, I send them an online meeting link. They click on it. It takes them to a fake Google Meet page to harvest their credentials. They put in their login details and bam, I have access to their accounts. Now I can even pose as them in order to gain access to other high-profile targets.
Well, every person that reached out to me, the first question for me is whether they're an agent or not. So I always think about it. So I vet everyone. It's always about a combination of how much I trust a journalist and how much I think it is important to go out rather than is this journalist someone I can trust or not. But of course I vetted you.
So yeah, these cases are happening, and I wouldn't know if it's just a coincidence, if it's my incompetence of protecting my own accounts, or is it really the Islamic Republic and the so-called charming kittens behind that.
Well, you cannot usually tell the difference between a normal criminal phishing attack and an APT.
Let me quickly pause here. APT stands for Advanced Persistent Threat, which, in short, are state-sponsored hacker groups used to conduct cyber warfare and other activities in cyberspace. You might have heard the names Fancy Bear or Cozy Bear in the context of the Democratic Party email hack in 2016 in the US. They're Russian APTs. The Lazarus Group is a famous one from North Korea, and Charming Kitten is also considered an APT, but from Iran.
If you are a bit more interesting as a target, the APT may develop more effort into you, so they may try to impersonate someone. They may put more effort into designing fake websites, fake forms, or anything. So once you discover something that's actually very good and very personal in particular, because the personal aspect requires former analysis and former work. So that means that a case officer has been assigned to you and has been researching you. So once it goes into spearphishing, which is more sophisticated and has at least like 3-4 indicators and references to other work elements that you're having, then you can be fairly sure that it's an APT who has a very specific personal interest in you.
In one example of such an attack in 2015, Mahsa Ahmadinejad, the Iranian-American journalist we mentioned earlier, was tricked into revealing her passwords after hackers impersonated one of her young relatives in Tehran, using their compromised Facebook account to contact her. Both Ozzy and Daniela have been in touch with the German state criminal police, the Landeskriminalamt.
They told me if anything weird is happening, I should tell them. So I called the Landeskriminalamt. It was very hard to reach them. And by that time, I was so happy that it's nothing urgent. What would I do if it's something urgent? But I got that. I reported it. They said that by that time now, they don't see anything political behind it.
Do you think Bundesverfassungsschutz, Germany, the Landeskriminalamt, they are doing enough to protect the Iranian activists?
Of course not.
The only thing that the police gave to me, after not really taking it serious at all, was to come to my house and say, well, your door needs to be changed. It would cost 3,000 euros, good luck.
I think the German government needs to do way more, because it's not on us to protect ourselves, and it's not on us to take care. Whenever we want to make a demonstration on a phone, when I want to say that, yeah, I'm planning a demonstration, the police tells me, are you aware that there might be spies from the Islamic Republic filming and making pictures of you? I think, yes, I am aware, but it's your job to be aware and to find them and then to do something about it.
By no means we feel safe. But it doesn't mean that just because we are not feeling safe, we also suppress our activism whatsoever, because the people who are fighting in Iran, they feel unsafe.
There are more attacks on activists, on journalists, on scientists, because it works. What we're doing is actually helping.